Today's episode, foam rolling 101. So, basically what we're going to be doing today is kind of going over the ins and outs of foam rolling. So the benefits of it, what you should be doing with it, how often you should be doing it, some of the myths, and I don't like this angle. Much better. Oh yeah, we also finished up all the renovations in here, so we're pretty much good to go. So the first thing I want to discuss is the myths. When we look at foam rolling, there's a bunch of different things that are going around. A lot of people are talking about different things. You know, there's a lot of information out there on the internet. Not all of it is really true, and a lot of the almost the guidelines are kind of skewed a bit, and there's so many people just saying a bunch of different things. So what I wanted to do today was make it very, very clear and very concise so that you can get all of the information that you need to be able to start foam rolling. And then probably in the next couple of episodes, I'm going to go over foam rolling of a certain or a couple of different areas so that you can get a better understanding of what to do in each of those areas and each of those muscle groups. So I think the first thing I want to start with is the myths. The first myth that I think you should really be paying attention to is the myth of pain. Now, everyone kind of confuses foam rolling with pain. They think that foam rolling should be painful. If it's not painful, it's not excruciating, if it doesn't hurt the entire time you're doing it, you're not getting any benefit. Probably should shave. Now, that's not entirely true. What you should be focusing on when you are foam rolling is that you get a little bit of discomfort, not crazy amounts of discomfort, just a little bit of it. The reason I say that is that most of this intense pain and discomfort should be left for a health professional that can actually handle that, because you don't know if you're rolling over the right area. You might be rolling over something you shouldn't. You might be putting a little bit of pressure on an area that you shouldn't, and you may actually be making the situation worse. Usually how our body's gonna respond to extreme pain is to kind of tighten up and not relax and release. When we're foam rolling, we wanna kind of get a little bit of soreness because we'll know we'll be breaking apart that tissue, getting a little bit more blood flow. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're kind of relaxed and not allowing our body to feel restricted and kind of seizing up and stopping all of those benefits from kind of happening. So number one, make sure it's not a lot of pain. Myth number two is a fancy foam roller. Now, one of the things I will always tell people is for a foam roller to be very useful and very effective, you want it to be completely flat. So if you notice this one here, there's no ridges anywhere. It's completely flat. The other thing is that it's not really that big, so it's very portable. I can take this anywhere with me. I don't really have to worry about the size of it and, you know, not being able to carry it with me to the gym because my gym doesn't have one, or, you know, bring it with me when I go, you know, out to the park and start doing some work on the field. I want to be able to have this kind of tool accessible anywhere in the world. So I want to be able to keep it small. Again, no ridges. You want it nice and flat. And the other thing you want is you want some density in there. This is a pretty dense foam roller. What that's going to guarantee is that I'm not collapsing inside of it. It's the foam roller's not breaking. We're allowing it to really stay nice and rigid the entire way through. Myth number three is foam rolling is a great replacement for a massage therapist. Now, this isn't exactly true. The reason I say that is because, yes, as I usually mention to a lot of my clients, foam rolling is a great replacement for massage therapists when you're not seeing them. What I mean by that is you should still see a massage therapist, still get that regular work done. This is gonna help kind of bridge that gap between sessions to make sure that you're not kind of ebbing and flowing out of feeling much better, really feeling bad, feeling much better, really feeling bad. It's gonna almost prolong the effects of the massage, but it's never really gonna be able to replace it. And what this might actually do is allow you to get even more benefits out of the massage, because the therapist is not gonna have to worry about constantly going back to undo what they did the last session. They're gonna be able to progress forward with it. Now that we're done with that, let's start looking at some of these rules. Now, when it comes to foam rolling, there's a couple of guidelines that I'd like to always recommend. That way, if you stick within these guidelines, you're gonna be able to get the benefits that you're looking for. Rule number one is speed. What I mean by that is you shouldn't be rolling over the muscles at an extremely fast pace. I've seen that a lot of individuals, some of my athletes often do it, and I usually have to tell them to slow it down a bit, but they'll jump on the foam roller and they'll just start racing over it, trying to get it done as fast as they possibly can. What I usually recommend for people to do is the first time you're actually able to figure out, you know, how to really use a foam roller, start learning how to spend a little bit more time working through each muscle. And the way to do that is by slowing it down. What that generally means is that you want to try to find a pace at about, let's say about 1 inch per second. That's usually a good speed to be going at. What you want to do is Take your time, go through each and every one of those areas at 1 inch per second. So slowly move back and forth and spend a little bit more time based on how much time you have allocated for the areas that are gonna be a little bit more sensitive. That leads me to guideline number 2, which is make sure to spend a little bit more time on the areas that are actually a little bit more sensitive and that are gonna help you get the best result. So for many of you who are spending your time seated at a desk, or if you are doing a sport, let's say your quads are usually going to be one of the areas that you're going to have a lot more pent-up tension. You're going to want to spend a little bit more time working on the front of that thigh, because that's where you're going to be getting the best results. So usually what ends up happening is that an athlete will come in, they'll be short on time, and they'll just start trying to hit everything they possibly can, and they'll never really spend enough time on any single area. What I usually would recommend for someone to do is to actually, if they don't have the amount of time available to do everything, focus on the 1 or 2 areas that you think are gonna have the most impact. By the way, this doesn't mean completely neglect everything else. If you are neglecting every other area and you're just kind of like whatever about it, you're never really gonna be getting any benefits. It's always gonna be the same problem. Now, even though I did mention that you could probably get away with doing 1 or 2, it doesn't mean that you should be trying to almost say like, oh, well, I guess I only have to do 1 or 2. You wanna be able to do everything, but if you don't have time, focus on 1 or 2 areas, 1 or 2 most important areas for you that are gonna help you get that result. Now, if you're not sure about what areas you should be focusing on, have a discussion with your athletic therapist, have a discussion with your massage therapist, talk to your strength coach, find out what areas you yourself need to be focusing on. What is that order, that ranking order that's gonna bring you from the most important to the least important, and then you can get to your workouts and work your way down by spending a little bit more time at the top, and as you start running out of time, you can start working your way down so that if you miss that last 2 or 3, it's not that big of a deal. You can make up for it another time. But as long as you're getting those 1 or 2 that are the most important, that's where you're gonna see the majority of your results. Rule number 3 is varying angles. What I mean by that is, let's say we take your leg, if we take your thigh and we kind of slice one end, slice the other end, it's pretty much circular, just like this roller. What ends up happening is you have muscles that are really gonna be rolling around all the edges and all the sides of that bone or that structure. So you wanna make sure that you're not just focusing on getting just the front of your quad, you're gonna wanna get the ins, the outs. You're gonna really wanna start working through that entire muscle group. And what you're gonna need to do to get that to happen is actually rotate your entire leg around so that you're getting one area, getting the other area, and then working your way through it. And you're actually covering the entire muscle itself. Number 4 is don't be afraid to change up the angle that you're attacking the muscle at. A lot of muscles are passing in specific angles, so the fibers run along a specific direction, and it's okay to cross that, because what that's gonna do is that's gonna allow you to start breaking apart some adhesions that may be caught in that area. As you're going over that muscle, you may need to kind of work in a different direction. What I usually tell people is, think about what a massage therapist is doing with you. They're always kind of mixing things up, varying different angles. You can also do that too. So don't be afraid to explore the different angles, but make sure you're sticking to the basics and then you're throwing in these other ones a little bit later. Side note, those different angles are really good to kind of vary things up when you have a very tender area. So when you have a big knot in an area and your muscle's not kind of letting go, using and varying up those angles and trying to change up the way you're doing it is a great way to kind of mix things up when you're doing that rolling. Rule number 5, which is probably my most important rule, even though I kind of left it for number 5, is consistency. Consistency is by far the biggest contributor to your success and your results that you're gonna get from foam rolling. If you're not doing this on a regular basis, you're not gonna see the results. The amount of time I've seen athletes come in and speak to me about, how they did foam rolling, didn't really feel any better. Usually I always ask them, how often were you foam rolling? Were you doing it often? Was it a daily thing or was it a weekly thing? And they'd be like, oh, I do it here and there. That's not gonna help you. You need to be doing it every single day. If you're doing it every single day, you're gonna start seeing the benefits. And rule number 6 is what time of the day you should be rolling. What I usually recommend for people to do is start their day off with a little bit of rolling. It's the best way to really kind of release all that tension, get your body moving right before the day starts. The other time you're gonna wanna do this is right before your activity. So if you roll in the morning and then you spend your entire day seated and then you try to do some physical activities, try to go out and get a jog in, you try to go to the gym, get a workout in, that's probably gonna be your next best time to do rolling. It's probably actually gonna be your best time to do rolling, because what's happened is you have the entire day of you being seated, your body's caught in a tight position, you wanna let yourself kind of relax and stretch out right before you jump into that that activity that you're trying to do, where you're gonna ask your body to do all kinds of these jumping, running, explosive movements, you don't want the muscle fibers to be tight and caught in an area where they can't really fire. So really try taking advantage of that roller right before you train. You're gonna start noticing the difference. So put those 6 tips to good use and make sure that you're able to foam roll on a regular basis. You will definitely start seeing the results. If you guys have any questions about anything we discussed today, you can definitely leave that in the comments and I will be more than happy to help you out with that. I'm positive that there's gonna be a lot of you out there that are gonna be kind of questioning some of the foam rolling you've been doing, or really curious about certain areas and seeing what this could do for you. If you have some tension, you have some stress, or usually you get a little sore in an area, and you might have some questions for it, please leave that in the comments. I will definitely be putting up a lot more episodes about these certain areas. I'm gonna start breaking down some of the key areas that I think a lot of you should be focusing on, and we're gonna be progressing from there. If you guys like this episode, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you guys think again in the comments. Leave a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next week.